What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Monday edition of Back Your Play with Q. As always, I'm your host, Rich Quinones, from our wonderful friends over at Play It Again Sports, 1450 Clemens Bridge Road. Don't forget, you can walk in, you can shop online. Just put in location, New Jersey. They got the doorbusters. Black Friday right around the corner, 50% off, 20% off specialty items as well. Play It Again Sports, our official sponsor of BYP with Q. With that, we welcome in our guy, our NFL guru, our insider, Lloyd Vance, host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football, which you can now hear every Monday, 8 o'clock on 102.9 The Game, Broad Street South Network. Kind enough to join us. And let me start. I always hope you had a wonderful weekend, but let me start by just saying this. I'm done. I'm done.
I knew it was coming.
I'm done. I have no desire to watch the crap that was put on the TV. I mean, thank God again, I was doing my broadcasting duties. I watched the game this morning. I don't need to see that crap anymore. I don't need to see that shit product of the New York Football Giants, my beloved New York Football Giants. I don't need it. I get stressed. I get anxiety. I get a headache. I get migraines. I get thoroughly friggin' depressed. I'd rather go outside and rake the yard if there was a yard with leaves down the shore. I am over this nonsense. I have no problem with them getting waxed because I knew that was going to happen yesterday. But Lloyd, for the love of freaking God, can you show up and show some pride? It's not about Tommy DeVito. It's not about the injury. The guys on the field show some friggin' pride. And yesterday, and the Dallas Cowboys were running it up on the friggin' Giants. Let's just get that out of the way. I mean, you want to dog walk me? Dog walk me. Don't kick me in the friggin' nuts. That's exactly what they were doing yesterday. Okay? But I'm going to take it like a man, and we're going to move on, and we're going to make mental notes, and we're going to put it in the back of our mind, and we're going to let it fester for the next 10 years, because that's the next time this team's actually going to be relevant. They are a horrible team. The head coach should be on the hot seat. The GM should be on the hot seat. There is no player safe right now with the New York Football Giants. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, Q, man, take a breath. I was thinking of you watching this one, and we knew that Dallas was going to run it up, and now they're 4-0 at home, and when Dallas is at home, and they know they have a wounded animal, they just going for the kill, as you said, and they love running the score up. It ends up 49-17, and you have CeeDee Lamb, who has 11 catches for 151 yards and a TD, and then Brandon Cooks comes out of nowhere off the witness protection, 9 catches, 173 yards, and 1 touchdown, and Dak's looking all happy, 4 touchdowns and 1 interception, and everybody's forgotten about what happened last week in Philadelphia, but to most people, they saw this coming, and Dallas, they're still the front runners. I don't think they're going to catch the Eagles. They're now 2 games behind. Obviously, the stretch coming up is going to be very interesting because the Cowboys, they have Carolina, and the Eagles have Kansas City, so that gap could be coming a little closer. But when you look at this Giants team, I actually agree with you that there's just no fight within them. You see Daboll kind of fighting with Wink Martindale on the sidelines, and it's the Titanic. I hate to put it that way, but you know what, Q, at 2-8, maybe they say, I think right now they're in like the 4th position. Maybe it could get worse. And they say, we get Drake May, we get Caleb Williams, we get one of these younger quarterbacks that you and I talked about last week, and one of these guys comes in and they start anew. Now, obviously, Daniel Jones with the ACL, when does he come back? But they can get out of that contract after 2024 and then kind of move forward. And that's what it's going to take. They're going to have to rip this thing down to the studs. Obviously, no right. And it was just an ugly situation.
Yeah, and I'm not even concerning myself with the Dallas Cowboys because we know what the hell is going to happen to them. We've seen this movie before. They'll win their 12, 13 games, and then they'll spit the bid in the playoffs, whether it's going to be the divisional round or the friggin' – so Cowboys fans, get the hell – go away. A bunch of friggin' rats. Just enjoying kicking me when I'm down with the Giants. My problem – I knew this team was not going to be a good football team. I thought they overachieved last year. The schedule was soft. They won ugly games with their defense. Jones made plays. Saquon had a very good year. Low scoring, ugly games. And they had a very nice one on the road. They got humbled against the Philadelphia Eagles. And then the first series to start the season, without belaboring the point, set the tone against the Dallas Cowboys, who have just whitewashed them for now a decade, it seems. But the problem now, I don't care if you lose. If Tankathon has it updated, I think second team right now, second overall draft pick, whether it's going to be Williams, May, whatever. You illustrated Jones in the contract, and he'll be under center to at least start next year. That's fine. And it's not even about having a practice squad player, because that falls on the GM when you have a starter that's always hurt and you have a journeyman backup that has a history of getting injured. But not to be competitive. And I know I've gone back and forth with people that are saying, well, look at all the injuries. I get it, man. It's the NFL. Nobody cares. It's next man up. If you go a step further and deeper, when you have Slayton and Shepard barking, when you have Saquon frustrated, when you have that extended conversation with the head coach, Brian Daboll, and the defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, when it stretches and bleeds into halftime and then coming out of the locker room, that shows me there's a crack in the foundation. And I tweeted this out. I'm looking at this team and I'm starting to see shades of Ben McAdoo, Pat Shurmur, Joe Judge. And the reason I bring it up is because yesterday reminded me of a game in 2017 when the Rams started to become a very good team and then get to the Super Bowl with, then Jared Goff. The Giants lost the game 51-27. But the play that stood out, Janoris Jenkins was suspended prior to. The play that stood out was a 3rd and 31, a third and friggin' forever. It was like a bubble screen to Woods, and he took it 51 yards for a touchdown. Guys were making business decisions. A couple weeks later, McAdoo was canned. McAdoo was fired. Now, I come on BYP to start the show, and I got to get it out. I have to get it off my chest. I have to just confess, right? I'm not going to say that the coach and the GM should be fired. They're on notice, they're on watch, and they're on the hot seat. But if you continue to put the product out that you're putting out and you continue to get your doors blown off, how in the world is that not fall on the head coach to gather the troops and say, it ends now. We're not going to go out this way. We might not win a lot of football games, but you will play hard. You will be competitive. And what I'm seeing right now is a team that is already starting to make business decisions, and we haven't even hit Thanksgiving. What the hell's going to happen in 3 or 4 more weeks? That's the problem I have.
They're looking like an expansion team. It's looking like hodgepodge group that hasn't even played together, practiced together, and the head coach, Brian Daboll, he was coach of the year last year, but man, he's fallen down the ranks, and you start to wonder, Q, as you were saying, is he on a hot seat? Is Joe Shane is where the general manager? I still think John Mara and the ownership group there will give them one more season because the loyalty from last year. But there's going to need to be wholesale changes on this roster and had some things cleaned up within, because as you were saying, guys are. It was, you had the second stringers, Cooper Rush, and all those guys they were laughing, having a good time, running up the score, as you said. And that's what Dallas does. Dallas is going to try to, when they have somebody down, they're going to try to humiliate them. And the Giants definitely have to find a way to have some pride, as you said. Yesterday, prime example was the Arizona Cardinals, who now are tied with the New York Giants. They're also 2-8. They went out and they had nothing really to play for, but they beat the Falcons in a game 25-23.
A big game for me. Thank you, Kyler Murray. Win more games so we don't have to worry about them drafting a quarterback.
Well, there you go. And they went out there and they played hard. And that's what they're got to find a way. Daboll, if he's the coaches advertised coming from the Bills and everything, he's got to get these guys to rally and play hard. I just don't know.
What do you do, Lloyd? What do you do? Like, you can't tell me there's not a fracture within that locker room. Xavier McKinney basically made comments about Wink Martindale. I would have sat his ass. I wouldn't have started him. Yeah. And when it just, you start to see the foundation, the leaks. And this is why the NFL is such a week-to-week proposition, man. It is a what have you done for me lately leak. They won 9 games last year. They went on the road and they had a real big playoff win. Then they didn't even show up against the Eagles. They didn't show up week 1 against Dallas. You take away 1/2 of good football against Arizona, this team's horrible. This team is not even competitive. It's just I don't understand. When you hit rock bottom and you're looking around and no one's to be found, so you need an aberration. You need the man upstairs to look down on you and help you on your feet. I'm looking around and I'm saying to myself, who the hell's helping me up on my feet? Like, how did we get to this point of such horrible, blind my friggin' eyes football from my beloved little blue helmet, my New York Football Giants?
Yeah, it's crazy how he circled a drain quick, but maybe you should get a T-shirt that says "We're not as bad as the Carolina Panthers" or something, because it's crazy. Because as you said, there was that huge high. I remember you and I talking after that Vikings game. Wow, they really put an effort together, and Daniel Jones, he deserves a contract and everything, and it can change very quickly, as you said, and when you compound bad drafts and free agent signings that don't make sense, and it all comes home, chickens come home to roost. So I think they need to kind of, Joe Shane and all of them need to say, okay, enough's enough. We're going to rebuild this thing into the off season. I don't think, as I said, I don't think they're going to get rid of their coach, but
I agree.
he's got to be feeling he needs to antacid this morning, just like all you Giants fans.
Yeah, and then listen, gotta watch that slop. And can we end the whole Jets unkillable nonsense? They're going to make the friggin' playoffs. I don't give a shit anymore about Aaron Rodgers and his torn Achilles. Stop. You're not coming back. And it doesn't matter. Now you're making me cough. You guys are getting me so worked up. You said this going into the season. You said it for the past several weeks with Robert Saleh. And now I'm starting to see exactly, pardon me, what you meant. He can't coach. Like, he doesn't hold any player accountable, and he's going to lose his job, not because he's not a good head coach. He's going to lose his job because he is just so loyal and defiant when it comes to Zach Wilson, and he keeps trotting that kid out there game after game. It's insanity. What's insanity? You're doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And that's what Saleh is doing right now. I don't see how the Jets don't make a change. And listen, Joe Douglas might go as well. Zach Wilson can't play. I don't want to hear he had a good game. He can't play. This offense is broken, and you're seeing a defense now that even last night, you had a young kid for the Raiders making some plays. You're putting the ball back in Zach Wilson's hand. The linebacker read his eyes brilliantly, made a play. And even, late in the game when you thought maybe there was going to be the Hail Mary and a mirror, it's not happening anymore. Like, the madness has to end. And I feel right now he's in so deep that he's not going to bench the kid. He's not going to sit the kid. And this is what you're going to get every week if you're a Jet fan. No offense.
Unfortunately, this team is another one that's fractured, and you see the situation where this is a defensive team, and it's just a matter of time for these guys on defense to say, you know what, I'm done with this crap, because this guy can't get it done. They don't believe in him. You can see they don't like him, and they just think he's just not going to get the job done. And Q, as you said, they lose 16-12 to the Raiders.
Yeah.
And they're in the red zone over and over again. Yes, it's great that Greg Zuerlein can make some field goals, and he made 3 field goals, a couple long ones, and did a nice job. But in terms of their offense, Wilson, and it's crazy, Q, because they have some playmakers on that offense. I mean,
100%.
Garrett Wilson, he was working his butt off out there, making some tough catches, some hospital balls, going up and getting them, getting hit. And then Breece Hall, I mean, this young man coming back with ACL, he is just electric. I just don't know how they can't get him going. Yes, everybody's on points at that offensive line, and Billy Turner and those other guys that are struggling, and Mekhi Becton. But Wilson, there were enough plays out there for him to get it done and will this team to victory. The defense kept getting the ball back for him. A lot of punts from the Raiders. And now the Jets, they can see right across the hallway. Look what the Raiders did. They got rid of their head coach who no one liked, was a spare part, was not fitting with his unit. And then you have Antonio Pierce coming in there, and these guys have bought in. They won 2 straight games, and they believed that they were going to win this game. And the Jets players you saw just had no belief that they could get it done.
Yeah, and I don't know if the Raiders are going to go all in on Antonio Pierce. Again, that's a story for another day. But, and I don't know if the players don't like Robert Saleh. I just feel as though he's never really held anyone accountable, right? At least Brian Daboll, I don't like his antics at times, right? I don't like the scowl, the look. I mean, you're not Bill Cowher. You haven't won anything in this league. Maybe if you win something in the league down the road, you can be like that. The stare down look. Saleh just, just very laissez-faire with the emotions, so to speak. He's never really gotten in anyone's face. He's never really told a player, listen, you can't do this. You ran the wrong route. That's a stupid penalty. You can't turn the ball over. And it reminds me of when Coughlin decided to reel the reins back and be a little more loosey-goosey. He was later on in his career. The team responded. They went on to win 2 Super Bowls. I believe if you're a certain way, it's hard to change. But I also believe if you're constantly in the face and then you scale back, that can work. But if you're kind of reserved and then you start to get in your face, I don't really necessarily believe the message is going to permeate with the players, if that makes sense. Like, I just don't see if he's getting in someone's face. Man, at this point, they're not going to want to hear it. And right now, the problem with this team is they're hoping that, the miracle boy can come back with his Achilles, and it ain't happening. And that's one of the reasons I said, don't go all in on Aaron Rodgers, because if it blows up and they miss the playoffs or he gets hurt, the GM's out, the quarterback's out, and the head coach is going to be out. So I see this right now. I see Robert Saleh getting fired at the end of the season, not because he's a bad guy, more or less because he never really decided, I got to sit this kid. I have to save the season. And that's going to be his downfall. Continually defending until the cows come home that Zach Wilson should be the starter.
Yeah, and you just can't do that. I kind of remember John Gruden. What was it? Was it Peterman? They're trotting Peterman out there, or Nathan Peterman. They started the Bills. One of them, Peterman. They tried him out there, and they were like, "Oh no, the kid can get that." Come on, we all know who this guy is. He's at this point in his career, and they just don't want to wipe the egg off their face. And we talk about this so much with these high left round draft pick quarterbacks. They always think these guys can be fixed, or these guys are who they were in college. Wilson's just not an NFL quarterback. He may be, he has that moxie and everything, but he makes mistakes with the football. He throws the football. He trusts his arm too much. He throws back against his body, throws the ball up in the air. He has very bad footwork mechanics, and he could get away with that stuff at BYU playing, in the Mountain West and all that, but it's just not going to happen in National Football League. And as you said, Robert Saleh, he needs to Nathaniel Hackett's his offense coordinator. He needs to talk to him, hold him accountable. And you're right, Q. They went all in on all these ex-Packers and Kumbaya. We saw it on Hard Knocks. Yep. You bring Hackett, you bring Billy Turner, you bring, Alan Lazard dropping pass after pass, big passes over the middle, not getting it done. Bob shouldn't even probably be on the roster. There's just so many mistakes in terms of this unit. And you're right, Joe Douglas, he's the general manager. He's the architect of this team. And you start wondering, Woody Johnson, the owner of the team, is he going to say, what, enough's enough? But interesting back pages in New York with these 2 football teams, because I just don't see either of them getting any better anytime soon.
And how about Zach Wilson pulling a Dak Prescott, showing the moxie to scramble? The kid has some athleticism, and then, again, stepping out of bounds, and then you're going backwards, right? You should be able to punch it in there. They cannot score. And it's crazy to think about this when you go all in and you put all your eggs in one basket with one quarterback, and that was Aaron Rodgers. He goes down 4 offensive plays. into the first series to start the season, and it sucks the life out of you. And somewhere along the line, that's when you rally the troops. And I thought Saleh did a good job for a couple of weeks, but when the quarterback is constantly regressing, not getting better, like I feel as though the real diehard Jet fan and the Zach supporter are blinded in this regard. They feel as though they look at a play or a series like, oh man, look at him. That last play, he chucked it up. That was athleticism. That could have been a great, it really was a nice play. And they say that's who he is. He just needs a new head coach. No, man. He's the quarterback that will make that play here and there, and then he's going to have you pull your hair out. That's one of the other reasons I felt if they said maybe keep a guy like Mike White or trade for another veteran quarterback at the time, I don't really think that's what Aaron Rodgers would have signed off on. Like Aaron Rodgers, to me, doesn't want competition. I honestly believe that. Yeah,
and now they have Tim Boyle's their third string quarterback.
No threat.
Why? Yeah, they might as well just give him a chance. See what he can do. We saw him with the Lions, how bad he was. He's just another nondescript guy. And Aaron Rodgers does want to be the show Q. He still makes sure he flies in for the game. Even though it was, and he's walking around without his crutches,
rolling his eyes.
He's making sure that everybody, all the cameras are on him and stuff. But at this stage in his career, I think he'll be 40 next month. There's not much left, and unfortunately for them, 4 snaps in, their whole course changed. You had to, career arc went that way. It just split.
Yeah.
And this team, unfortunately, we always talk about that NFL films end of season video. It's going to be, that'll be the story of it. He goes down in the first quarter, and his team never really recovered. And unfortunately, they're just not. It's just not.
Well, the Giants and the Jets. I mean, NFL films. It'll be seasons to forget. I mean, it's just been really, it's been really bad. It just gets draining after a while. Hey, it's a Monday edition of Back Your Play with Q. Rich Quinones here. Our good friend Lloyd Vance from host of Lloyd Vance's Insider Football 102.9 The Game and Broad Street South, kind enough to join us as well. And we are presented by our wonderful friends over at BetterHelp. And let me take a moment and tell everyone out there about this amazing partnership with Back Your Play. We're talking about sports and being fans of Fanatical, and we know we have fun with it, but it's not life or death. It's not serious, right? Listen, life can be very overwhelming. Work, family, pursuing the passions, dealing with the kids, everything, bills, the mortgage, trust me. We all know that feeling. The holidays are right around the corner, and sometimes you might feel overwhelmed. You just might need someone to talk with or to. Back Your Play when it comes to taking care of yourself. First and foremost, your mental well-being. If you're thinking about starting therapy, then please give BetterHelp a try. Flexible with online sessions. They'll work around your schedule. All you have to do is go to betterhelp.com/RichQ to get 10% off your first month. That's betterhelp.com/RichQ. Speaking of, getting in that right mental space, right? And you look at some of these games yesterday, we mentioned the 2 New York teams, and then you see what's going on in Boston with the Patriots out in Germany. A horrible loss. We cashed in on the under. Thank you. We gave you that on Friday with the prop against the Colts yesterday. And this kind of goes back to the conversation we had a little while ago when it comes to the hoodie. I mean, I didn't like them to win that game at all. And I saw highlights. And at the moment that he decides to bench Mac Jones to go to Billy Zappa-Doo. Yeah.
With 152 left in the game. He took him that long.
Well, that is so uncharacteristic of Bill Belichick. For the first time in a long time, to me, that reeked of a guy that's starting to lose it, meaning I'm losing the hold here with this team and this franchise. And it was a desperation move. And then the kid, for some inexplicable reason, tries to turn into Dan Marino with the fake spite. Mac Jones kind of thrown a little shade because I guess Belichick said he doesn't have an arm, whatever. Here's the bottom line. That team is a sinking ship. They are 2-8. There was reports coming out that if they lost, maybe Kraft decides to fire Belichick again. We both believe that's not going to happen. End of the season, though. End of the season. Multiple-year contract or not, I think they turn the page on Belichick. And I still don't know what's going to happen with Harbaugh in Michigan, the other domino effect, right? He'll flirt with the NFL. But I'm going to reiterate this to those that missed it. Wouldn't it be something if Rodgers does come back and the Jets have a ready-made defense and Kraft fires Belichick and Woody Johnson turns around and picks up the phone and says, you want to stick it to those guys and keep owning the division that you've owned for 20 years? I'll open the checkbook. You handle the defense. You can bring in your guys for the offense, and away we go. Meaning, as crazy as it sounds, if Bill Belichick gets fired from the New England Patriots and you don't have to worry about giving up any draft capital and trading for him like we saw years ago with Gruden, how many teams do you think, A, would consider calling Belichick? How many teams do you think Belichick would potentially have interest in? Because Belichick wants to beat Shula's record. He's made it known. He's not going to retire anytime soon. But just imagine for a moment, and I can see people right now saying, Q, what the hell? Is it hot toddy time? What are you talking about? Can you imagine if Belichick wound up on the sidelines coaching the Jets?
I can see a number of situations happening, Q, and it all starts with, man. I was sorry I got up early to watch that game. It's they beat the Colts, beat them 10-6. What an ugly game. And he kept flashing to the press box, and you're seeing Robert Kraft. He's thinking, oh, I flew all the way over here to Frankfurt, Germany for this crap. You know what I mean? And you're right.
Yeah, but he flew in comfort. He flew in comfort.
Yeah. So they're on a bye this week. I don't, you always hear, oh, they won't let him off the plane or get on a plane. Belichick is safe as long as he wants to be there. But I think Kraft is going to, at the end of the season, say, enough's enough. Let's part ways. Let's do it amicably. And as you said, he can still be paid as a head coach if he's assistant on somebody else's staff. Now, would he swallow that humble pie and say, okay, I'll go as assistant or head coach somewhere?
Yeah.
A lot of dominoes, as you said, it got to fall around the league. We talked about Washington, the Jets. There's a lot of situations, and I still believe that Belichick, if he gets let go by the Patriots, he'll be a lot like Andy Reid. It took Andy Reid a week to get a job after he left the Eagles, and then he went to the Chiefs. And it's all about his resume. We know at this point in his career, he does not have his fastball. Maybe he's lost a portion of the locker room or something, just a miss with his team. I think his biggest problem is personnel. Obviously, if he goes somewhere, he cannot be in charge of being
That's
the
the
GM.
problem.
Let somebody else pick the players and all that, and then he can coach them up and then go from there. I think he's 17 wins from tying Don Shula, and as you said, he wants that record. He said it over and over again that he'd like to be number one on that list. So I think he will get a job somewhere else. But it was very interesting to see this one in terms of the sidelines. Another situation, you had Bill O'Brien, right over Belichick's shoulder. You have O'Brien laying into Mac Jones and saying enough's enough. And Mac Jones, he does not endear himself to his teammates. He's another one of these guys. I don't think the players want to play for him, and he puts it on everybody else. It's never him. He's always pointing outward, and it's just an ugly situation. And it's another team, 2-8. They're going to be high up in the draft, and they're probably going to be looking for a new quarterback as well.
So Tankathon has them third overall pick. Here's their selections, mock draft, 3 rounds. Marvin Harrison Jr., Bo Nix, not bad. That would be with the 34th pick. They have 2, 4, 6, 8 picks. I mentioned to you the Giants right now sitting with the number 2 overall pick. Tankathon has them going to Drake May, which, my buddy's really astute in college football, and he's like, listen, Drake May is just as good, if not better and more athletic than Caleb Williams. So, again, that's a conversation we can have down the road. And then you have Carolina, by virtue of the trade with the Chicago Bears. Now, obviously, they don't need a quarterback. So that is, I guess it potentially can fall into place for the Giants, New England. You know, Arizona, you mentioned they sit number 4 right now. It'll be interesting. I mean, Chicago at number 5 because they got the win the other night. They're 3-7, so they're probably going to go with the quarterback. You know, you mentioned Zach Wilson and the Mac Joneses of the world. Explain to me then how a kid like CJ Stroud, who you might have to now start to put into the MVP conversation, how is he able to just come in like this? And this kid is, I mean, I enjoy watching this kid play. Like, he's that good. Everyone was thinking about where are they going to go now? Are they going to be able to hire a head coach? Well, wait a second. Are they going to hire a minority head coach? Are they going to hire a black head coach? Are they only going to give him a year or two? Well, D'Amico Ryans, by all accounts, great teammate in San Francisco, great teammate in with Philly, right? And as a head coach,
Texans all-time one of the all-time leading tacklers for the Texans.
Yeah,
and he wanted too.
Yep.
He wanted that job. He said, "You know what? I don't care about all the politics and stuff swirling around this team. I'm going down here and I'm coaching this team, and you can see this team has believed in him.
Yeah,
And if the playoffs start today, they are the number 7 seed if playoffs start today. That was a huge win going into Cincinnati,
big win,
taking care of business. You know, I thought all week, you know, Joe Burrow's going to pull this one out. They made Joe Burrow look very uncomfortable in the pocket. They were chasing him. They were hitting him. It's a kind of no-name defense. And then you talk about Stroud at the end. You know, the Bengals probably should have took the lead because Boyd dropped. He should have had that, you know, taken the lead on that touchdown pass. They kicked the field goals tied up, but Stroud's like, you know what? Okay, now it's my turn.
Yeah.
And when you look at him, it's almost like I equate it to another sport like basketball. If you remember when Larry Bird went to the Celtics, he just changed the fortune of that team, even as a rookie. And that's what Stroud is doing. And he's in that conversation, as you said, to be an MVP candidate.
Yeah, and I misspoke. Obviously D'Amico Ryans, as you mentioned, long time with the Texans, couple years with the Eagles. Assistant coach is what I was trying to get. He was with San Francisco, defensive quality coach, then a linebacker coach, then an offensive coordinator. So he's gone up the ranks, right? He's played the game, and now it looks like a great hire, candidate for coach of the year along with Campbell in Detroit. But Stroud, man, he's just burst onto the scene. And what happens is you got a young enough team that are, you know, they got rid of the toxicity, the bad culture. I mean, I think when you look at some of these franchises, the Giants did it last year. The Raiders are doing it now. Texans did it before the season. You get rid of that nasty, yucky taste in your mouth, spit it out, start over, and you start to reap the rewards and the benefits. Now, it's happening for the Raiders short term. It's happening for the Texans. It looks long term, face of the franchise in the quarterback. Not so much with the Giants right now, but point being, it's a step in the right direction. And the Texans, we thought maybe they were going to be a sleeper team, and they're certainly playing like a very good team. That leads us to a couple of games I want to hit with. So we talk about the NFL as a week-to-week proposition. I went on the record Friday. Jacksonville was one of my picks. San Francisco just absolutely whitewashed them. Now we're going to sit here on a Monday, overreaction, say the 49ers are back. Jacksonville's a fraud. I don't believe that. I think Jacksonville just ran up to a very good team when healthy. You can make the case the best in the NFC, let alone the NFL. But the 49ers got the big win yesterday. The Vikings, again, behind Dobbs, pulling another rabbit out of the hat. They get the win. Tampa with an ugly win over the Tennessee. And then I want to get your thoughts on the Ravens and the Browns game, because the Browns were getting 6. They hung in there, and then they had a great win late, down 14. I think they were 0-49 against the AFC North when they were down by 2 touchdowns. Whatever the stat was absolutely crazy. So let's start with the 49ers and Jacksonville. What's your takeaway from that game?
Yeah, you know, I thought much like you that the Jags had turned the corner, that this was their time to, at home, to show everybody we're legit and we're a Super Bowl contender. And yeah, they're still going to be in the mix and they're going to win the AFC South. But you had the Niners coming in there limping in. You know, they lost 3 straight games. Yes, they had their bye, but they went in there and it was a business trip for them. And they were just dominant. And as you said, when they have their full wealth of weapons, I mean, this team is scary, particularly on defense. Now they have Chase Young rushing from the one side. He had a half a sack, and then and energized Nick Bosa, who had 2 sacks in this game, and you had Fred Warner with an interception, and they just have all stars at every position. So they're a scary team. And then Brock Purdy was efficient. And we talked about this last time. When he's on script, he's very tough to beat. And he was able to, his QBR was through the roof. I think it was like 140 plus. And then that huge pass down that he hit down the field to Kittle just
Yep.
showed you the explosiveness of this team. So, you know, they're going to keep battling, and they play the Eagles in a couple of weeks. That's going to be a fun game to watch. And you definitely got to watch for the Niners now. I guess they're back.
Yeah, and listen, Jacksonville got humbled. 49ers, when their defense is on, and they got CMC, they got Purdy, they got Kittle, they got Debo. I mean, they've got playmakers left and right. They have a very good defense. They just needed to right the ship, and Jacksonville caught them at the worst time. I still think Jacksonville's a playoff team, and sometimes you get humbled like that. We've seen it. They'll be okay. They're going to be a playoff team. I don't know how far they're going to go. The other team that's very, I don't want to say, I can't figure out is Baltimore, because we look at their stretch and all of a sudden, here you go. Best team, ransacking people. Here you go. Running back's a great story. Lamar Jackson, MVP candidate, the defense, the weapons. And then in a game that they should have really put Cleveland away. And not only do they lose to their rival, AFC North, but it is a game that is just too familiar in the Harbaugh era, where they had an opportunity to put this team away. They weren't able to do it. Deshaun Watson, listen, he made the plays that he had to make here and there, also with his legs. The kid Ford had a really big game as well. Remember the running back that's their planet, Chubb. But that is a really big win for Cleveland. You're down against a bitter rival by 14 in the fourth quarter, and you turn around and you get the win on the road. I got to give the Browns a lot of credit. Is this more about the Browns or more about the Ravens not being able to finish?
This was a game I was like, oh, this is the Ravens' time to really step forward, and the road's going to go through Baltimore. You know how well that Lamar Jackson plays at home, but they were up 17-9 at the half, and you're like, okay, this is going to be done. But then Ronnie Stanley got hurt,
Yep.
and then it kind of changed everything. And as bad as the Browns are in terms of offense and everything, we know their history. Their defense is one of the best in the league, and Myles Garrett and the rest of those guys started getting heat on Lamar. And Lamar, he's just so tentative in the pocket, Q, to me. He's looking like, almost like we were talking about how stubborn they are with Zach Wilson. It looks like Lamar's kind of stubborn that I'm not going to run the football, and he's going to try to drive it down the field with a pass or something instead of moving the chains. And that's what they needed at certain points in this game, to kind of move the chains and just get that win. Because even Cleveland, they went down and missed the extra point, so they still had the opportunity to salt the game away. And then there was that huge pick six. I know it was a tip pass, but Lamar, if they just move the clock going, keep the clock going, and move the chains, they get the win. So Lamar's 13 to 23, 223 yards, 1 TD with those 2 interceptions, including the pick six. It's a loss that kind of will stick with them. They still lead the division because they don't have their bye to week 13. But Cleveland, they win ugly, Q, man. We talk about stop, there is no style points, but they just know how to get it done. I'm still not sold on Deshaun Watson. He only had 213 yards passing, but he did just enough to get the win, and the Ravens kind of handed it to him.
Yeah, and I think he's also supposed to be getting an MRI on his left ankle as well. So he left in a walking boot, says he expects to play against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh got the win, made a couple plays defensively late against Green Bay. That turned out to be an entertaining game. Green Bay had an opportunity late. And then really, and I can't wait when NFL Network re-airs it so I can watch it in its entirety, my guy, my MVP, Jared Goff, and my Detroit Lions. Look, same old song with the Chargers, right? losing a game late. I guess the only thing you take away is Detroit, the defense, they're going to be a team that they're going to score 40, but they might give up 30, 35. Jared Goff yesterday, ridiculous numbers. He's playing at such a high level. And I think something that really has not been discussed with this team is that he's not getting touched. I mean, if you look at this kid, first couple of years in Detroit, 35, 23 sacks respectively. He's only been sacked 15 times through 9 games. So they're keeping an upright. I mean, he throws a really pretty ball. Isn't it amazing how a couple of years ago, the conversation was, with Jeff Fisher, I have no confidence in this kid, no confidence in this kid. And then they have the run, and then he starts to put together a nice little, run here, 4,500, 4,600. He had the big season back in 2018. As soon as he comes over to Detroit, man, 19-9, 29-7, 14-5 so far this season. He's going to throw for another 4,500 yards when it's all said and done. I think Detroit is a team that if you get them in the playoffs in the perfect conditions, right? I mean, if San Fran, Dallas, Eagles might be a little different in that environment, or at home, they're going to be able to move the football and score points. The question is, can their defense make some stops? And they were able to do that late, but it was Goff who made some of the big throws late in that game to set up the game-winning field goal.
Yeah, cute. And there's 2 stories that this game, and I always start with the Chargers, and they cannot finish out games. Brandon Staley is now 23-20 overall as a head coach.
Oof.
In 1-score games since 2021, Staley is 14-15. So
Wow.
his teams cannot close the door, and he's another one of these guys you got to start wondering, is the seat getting real hot underneath of him? Now, when you talk about the Lions, what an effort. 41 points. They had 533 total yards, averaging 8.3 yards per play, and Goff is on the same page with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, they're just running the football up and down the field with these two. And he had a great game in his homecoming back to Los Angeles, 8 catches on 9 targets, 156 yards receiving. And then he had a big 20-yard touchdown that kind of broke open this game. So I do agree with you that the Lions, they're believing in what Dan Campbell's putting out there. Maybe he can get Aaron Glenn to kind of clean some things up. I do like that young running back Gibbs. He had a really nice game again, and now they have Montgomery going as well. So they are a fun team to watch, and hopefully they can keep this thing going. We'll see. We'll see. Their records kind of it's nice, and then they have a nice schedule coming up that's kind of easy behind it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, they can stockpile a couple wins here and win 12, 13 games. I don't know if the Eagles are going to stub their toe, but the Eagles have a much tougher schedule coming off the bye. They have Kansas City. You have tonight, Monday Night Football. We talked a little bit about this last week where I don't want to say that the window is completely shut, but the Bills now seeing how the landscape of the AFC is changing. They got to start winning some games here, man. That line has jumped up to 7.5. It'll probably close right around there. Broncos feeling pretty good about themselves, getting that big win against Kansas City. But if you are the Buffalo Bills and you are worth, your grain of salt, you have to take care of business tonight, because the last thing they want to do is lose another game, a bad loss. And then when you start to really break this down, Lloyd, and you look at the AFC conference-wise, right now, Buffalo's on the outside looking in. You've got KC, Baltimore, Jacksonville, Miami, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, and Houston would get that last spot. Cincinnati and Buffalo would be on the outside looking in. So this is a really big game tonight for the Buffalo Bills.
It's a huge game for them. And we know that Josh Allen, when he's right, he's clicking and he's getting the football down the field, but he's got to cut down on interceptions. And hopefully they can get a running game going with James Cook, and maybe possibly get Fournette going in this one. I do like the Bills a lot in this one, Q, because as you said, they sat back yesterday and they got to watch all these other teams kind of jump ahead of them in the playoff race, and they have to win this to keep pace. And they still have a chance to catch Miami because they're going to play them later on down the season. But they have to get these winnable games. And Denver, yes, Denver's won 2 straight, and Russell Wilson's feeling a little bit better. But the Bills are a better team. I know they're a little banged up, but they have to get this one done tonight.
Yeah, the Broncos can't score. I mean, forget about Kansas City. They put up 24. They put up 19 against Green Bay, 8 in a loss to Kansas City, 21 in a loss to the Jets. Let's not even talk about the 70-20 game. I mean, Russell Wilson. Yeah, listen, Russell Wilson can't be their leading rusher, right? I mean, they have to get an semblance of a ground game tonight. But Buffalo, you look at Buffalo's games coming up, man. They do not have an easy schedule. After this game, the Bills have the Jets, the Eagles, Kansas City, Dallas, and the Chargers. I mean, look, 3 of those 4 games, Philly, Kansas City, Dallas, they're going to be really tough games. And then they close against Miami. Miami might have an opportunity to knock them out of playoff contention. So, all right, let's start with game ball. And I'm wondering, I think Dak is too easy, low-bearing fruit against a bad team. You gave it to CJ Stroud before. Is it a quarterback?
Not a quarterback.
Is it a wide receiver?
Yes.
CeeDee Lamb.
No, I can't. No, Dallas.
But that's what I'm saying. You can't.
They ran up the score. I'm not giving it to them for run up the score on a Giants team.
All right. It was a wide receiver.
See how much you listen to me.
Oh, Detroit Lions.
Yes. Mon Ross, Brown.
See that? Guys.
This was a tough one because Keenan Allen had a great game in a losing effort. He tried his best, but this was a great game to watch. And I know usually I'm a defensive guy, but Mon Ross Brown, he's on the same page with Goff. He's just finding holes in the defense. He had his 8 catches, as I said, 9 targets, under 56 yards, big touchdown catch. He averaged 19.5 yards per reception in this one. He had 5 catches of 20 yards or more. He had a huge 46-yarder that put him right on the doorstep. And then he had, which I really like, he had 5 first downs. So whenever Goff needed a big play, he was there and he got it done. So he gets my game ball.
Yeah, try to put me on the spot saying, let's see if I listen. I hear everything. An elephant, I don't forget. All right, Lackey. You're again, Zach Wilson, DeVito, it's too easy. I'm gonna go outside the box and say the Lackey you gave to a defensive unit.
I almost gave it to Brandon Staley. You heard me rattling off the stats. The guy is not getting it done. And you hate to see anybody get fired, but it's time for him probably to step aside as head coach. He was supposed to be a defensive coach, but I gave it to a quarterback, and it was Trevor Lawrence. He was awful in this game. It was a home loss to the Niners. He's 17-29. 185 yards. He had no touchdowns. He had 2 interceptions for a 48.8 passer rating, and he had 3 turnovers. He had a lost fumble in this game. Yep. They're at home. This was their chance to kind of step forward. And the thing is that kind of scares you right now about Lawrence is he has 10 turnovers right now, and he only has 9 touchdown passes in 9 games this season.
Wow.
So he needs to clean things up. I know they're leaning on ATN and Ridley and Kirk are doing a nice job for them, but Lawrence has got to play better if they want to be a true contender. And yeah, I was surprised, Q, because I thought, okay, maybe Jacksonville could compete with
100%
that number spot.
Yeah, well, a 9 touchdown pass, man, and I had him as a dark horse for MVP. I mean, my logic was as Jacksonville goes, he goes, and obviously that was the case yesterday. Wow. Purdy, it's amazing. He just, what do you have? Close to 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's the quarterback position in the NFL, man. You can't figure it out. You really can. And it just amazes me how CJ Stroud can burst on the scene, right? You're looking at Richardson, Stroud. You're looking at some of these young quarterbacks to make that jump to be the face of the franchise. And then you look at what's going on with Zach Wilson, third year in the league, and you can't muster up any type of offense. Lawrence now struggling a little bit. I think it also creates the argument and debate where sometimes you don't need to get a quarterback in the top 10. You can find a gem here and there, a la, a Brock Purdy,
the system's
Sam
huge. And
Howell.
we talked briefly a little bit about this guy, Josh Dobbs. What's this, his fourth, fifth team, and it's finally clicking for him. You have the Vikings have won, what, 5 straight games, and it's a feel-good story. So you're right, Q. You just never know when one of these guys is going to break out. And a lot of times it's these bonus babies. These guys are these high draft picks, and scouts become enamored with them that they just can't get it done at this level.
Yeah, and listen, I know the Comeback Player of the Year award. I know they talk about like a marketing award, but Dobbs is clearly the Comeback Player of the Year award. Damar Hamlin, God bless the kid. I tweeted this out. If there's a courageous or inspiring award, maybe the NFL should create one that goes to this kid. But Dobbs, that is a comeback because, and I know people will micromanage what I'm saying and really try to, split the atom here. Don't. It's not that hard. This is a guy that's been a journeyman quarterback, traded, cut, latched here, and then here we go is with Arizona, pick up the clipboard, go win a couple games in Minnesota, has won a couple games, and he's doing this with their franchise quarterback, Kirk Cousins, down. I mean, look at the play he made yesterday, the athleticism. It speaks to kind of his character. So, if the NFL wants to split hairs and say courageous, inspirational award, that's fine. But if you're a comeback player, to me, it's Dobbs.
Yeah, and the Vikings, they get Justin Jefferson back soon for that hamstring, and
Yeah,
they're going to be a fun team to watch. We talk about all the negative and crazy stories like the Jets and the Giants and and the Patriots, but it's fun that some of these guys are really stepping forward and they have some great performances out there.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Tonight, 8 o'clock, Broad Street South, 102.9, Lloyd Vance's Insider Football. Who's the guest tonight?
We have Chris Allen coming on from Fantasy Life. He's on the Peacock Fantasy Football Show with Barry over there. So, it was good get. He's a guy that I've talked to for a number of years on Twitter, and we're excited to get him. So we'll talk some fantasy football, but I do want to get his take on CJ Stroud and some of these other quarterbacks, and do they think they can get it done? And some of these receivers as well. So great season. Let's see if we can keep this thing going.
All right. Don't forget, follow Lloyd on Twitter, X, at Lloyd Vance. And of course, BroadStreetSouth.com, 102.9 The Game. He's always kind enough to join us during the week on BYP. And always appreciate it, my friend. I'll be able to relax a little bit and watch Monday Night Football. I don't have a horse in the race. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm good to go until the Giants lose by 20 to Washington. I think they're already Washington's probably going to lay about 11.5, 12 in that one. So it'll be another pointless weekend for me watching these games. But we'll do it again on Friday as we preview the upcoming weekend. Appreciate you, pal.
All right, Q. Thanks for having me on.